The Blues sign a familiar face, and Robert Thomas, well, my friends, he re-enters the lineup.
Hey, this is Bryn Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It has been a busy Monday. We do have Edmonton tonight, but the biggest storyline isn't us going up against the Oilers. It is the fact that Calle Rosen has now signed with the Blues after a trade went down today between the Blues and the Capitals. We did have to trade away defenseman Corey Schueneman, and he did play a couple of games with us last season, okay? But what I will say is that Calle was also with our organization, so we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Blues and the Oilers. Of course, we have to give a little game day preview, and of course, more trades coming. Now, the reason why I say it like that is there is a credible NHL reporter that kind of indicated something. So we're going to dive deep into that. We have a busy episode today, as I said. But before we begin, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Calle Rosen, welcome back to the Blues organization. It is so funny to me the amount of people that didn't realize that he once was with this organization not too long ago. And we're going to talk about the history of his time in the NHL. But what I want to say first and foremost is I do suspect that he will be sent down to the T-Birds. And that's not a diss at him by any means. But I don't necessarily think he's going to draw into the lineup immediately. Now, what I will say is that I also found it really interesting that Doug Armstrong made this trade. I mean, this is a player that he knows. Obviously, he's been with this organization. And I feel like there's a reason as to why we traded for him. It could be a really good depth signing. And I know some of you might laugh a little bit, but at the end of the day, you always want to have players in your bullpen. And I know that's a baseball analogy, but hockey, in a sense, is a lot like baseball when it comes to the bullpen. You always want to make sure that you have the best available options ready to go when you need them. So again, it was, in my opinion, it was a good trade. I don't think any trade in that sense, when you're trading players that are AHL players, is going to necessarily be a bad trade. And what I mean by AHL players is obviously not any of our prospects, like the young guys. I'm talking about the guys that are in their 30s that will most likely stay in the AHL. So with that being said, to me, it was a good trade. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Rosen and his history, because I feel like this is something a lot of people maybe don't know about for whatever reason. So in 2017, he was signed as a free agent by Toronto. Then he was traded to Colorado by Toronto in 2019. In 2020, Toronto traded he was traded back to Toronto by Colorado, okay? So he goes back. So it's Toronto, Colorado, and then Colorado back to Toronto, right? Then he was signed as a free agent by the Blues in 2021. Then in 2024, he was signed as a free agent by Colorado. Then he was signed as a free agent by Washington this past July. And evidently, he was traded to the Blues today. So he has a history of going back and forth between the teams that he's used to play for. But I have to tell you, to me, I love this kind of thing where you're a free agent and you're signing with different teams and you're able to kind of live out your dream. I love that. I'm a big fan of that. He has played overall 93 career games in the NHL at 31 years old. He has 11 goals and 20 assists, which honestly, I have to say, in 93 games, not horrible. 31 points and plus 10, which is the most notable. What I will say, though, is that he doesn't really give you that many points. I mean, in his last 5 games that he did play in the NHL, he didn't accumulate any points. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you're not really throwing him into that much action per se. With the Blues in 23-24, He picked up only 1 point with 1 assist. Now, what I will say is his best season with the Blues in 2020-23, he played in 49 games with 8 goals and 10 assists, giving him 18 points, but he was plus 19 on the season. He plays anywhere between 13 to 15 minutes on average. So, again, you know what you're going to get out of him. Now, what I will say is, and this is what I find really interesting, it's the people that are seemingly thinking that this is going to change the direction of the Blues. I think at the end of the day, you have a player that, if you need him, he knows what he has to do. But do I think he's going to change the Blues? No. At 31 years old, I do not think that. I think that he is just one of those players that is going to help when you need him to help. But again, I can't come on here and say to you confidently that this is a player that's going to change the trajectory of things going on right now, because it's kind of a mess right now with the Blues. But it is just so interesting to me in a sense where, he does well in the AHL, right? He helped Colorado in the AHL reach game 7 of the 2025 Western Conference Finals. So he is a valuable player in that sense. But again, we've talked about this, my friends. The difference between the AHL and NHL is just, it's such a big gap in between. And I think that this was a signing where Doug might have said, you know what? We could utilize him if something happens to Mayu. Like, I don't know necessarily. Again, there hasn't been any statement by Doug in my media email. But what I can say is I do suspect there's a reason as to why the Blues signed him. But I'm curious about what you think about if you thought this was a good signing or not. As I stated, I don't think you could go wrong with this signing with Calle Rosen. I mean, the Swedish native. It is so cool, though, to see him coming back. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is just really interesting, too, because besides Corey, and this one makes me a little bit sad, and I don't like saying it because it bothers me and I am in denial. However, the Hershey Bears also acquired Sam Bidden from the T-Birds for future considerations. I love Sam Bidden. Come on now. So that to me is something that, it sucks. We all have our guys that we like. I have told you numerous times I'm a big fan of the AHL. So this was a separate transaction. This had nothing to do whatsoever with Cali. A separate transaction that went down today. So Sam Bidden is now with the Hershey Bears, and we had some AHL moves today, which kind of distracted us from what's going on with the Blues, which is actually not a bad thing here and there. But I like Sam Bidden. I've been to numerous T-Birds games and seen him play. So Sam, Will Bidden, all the Biddens, love the Biddens. So we're going to talk about the Blues and the Oilers, as there is a contest tonight. This is a contest that I feel kind of confident in, and maybe for reasons that are not traditional. Nonetheless, there are at least reasons to gain some confidence, as it's been kind of a hectic start to the season. Before I do so, I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has bets on everything from who will score the next and and fourth quarter comebacks. I gotta get my basketball knowledge up a bit. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late punch. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We have a fun hockey game coming up in a few hours between the St. Louis Blues and the Edmonton Oilers. And what I have to say is this. First and foremost, the Blues did fall to the Columbus Blue Jackets this past weekend, only by a goal this time. Okay, so it was at least close. But they have now lost 7 straight games. They did gain at least 1 point in OT. I'll take the shootout. You know what? I kind of black out that shootout because of what Braden Shen did. So my apologies for that. I promise I'm a fan, my friends. It was just horrible hockey. But they do play tonight. And for the Blues, I need this team to figure out ways to get back in the win column. Last night, you had Calgary, who defeated Philadelphia, which means that they're both tied with 8 points, but the Blues are ahead over Calgary due to the OTLs, right? So, being said, if the Flames gain any point in any sense, they're going to be ahead of the Blues, and then we will be the worst team in the NHL. So, the path to becoming 32 out of 32, it's kind of getting a little bit closer than we thought. And I have to tell you, I did not see the season going this way. I mean, San Jose is ahead of us. So when you think it's bad, it's pretty bad. And this is maybe my karma for making fun of the Nashville Predators. By the way, funny SNL skit about them. But this is definitely my karma. I am totally accepting the fact that I deserve it. Well, not me, but I'm trying to make sense of what this is. But let's go talk about tonight's contest because Robert Thomas, my king, my savior, my favorite hockey player, re-enters the lineup again. Tomer was out for a little bit, right? In late October against Detroit, he left with an injury, and then he missed the next 4 games. So this is the perfect time for Tomer to come back in. Monty said, we got our number 1 center back, so it's a big boost. And then continued on by saying everyone gets deployed appropriately with the minutes and especially matchups as well, especially when you're at home. Obviously, Robert Thomas did speak today, and he did state, we feel like we're building our team game, and you can see that coming into play, but you just haven't got the results yet. If you continue to build your game, the results will come eventually. So that's why I'm excited to come back and hopefully help our team get a big win. I think that confidence really does speak volumes because right now the Blues need all the confidence that they can get. And they're also wearing their 3rd jerseys tonight. So they have a new sweater going on. So maybe that will help it a little bit. No, but at the end of the day, I think having Robert Thomas back in the lineup will be beneficial. Now, I also don't want to discredit the fact that I haven't been pleased with Robert Thomas this season. And I'm not looking to be negative all the time, right? It might seem like I'm negative. I'm not always negative. I mean, we have Jordan Kyrou right now, who leads the team in points with the 8 goals. With the 4 goals and 4 assists. And I know that a lot of people give my boy Jordan Kyrou grief. However, I do believe at the end of the day that this is a team that needs their star players to step up a little bit more. And we just haven't seen that, right? In the 8 games played by Robert Thomas this season, he accumulated 1 goal and 5 assists for 6 points total. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Hale, the 5 assists, that's good, but I want my boy Robert Thomas to score. In his last 5 games that he played, he has yet to get a goal. And the 2 assists came from that Detroit game. So I need him to just get comfortable again, step back up again, and be the Robert Thomas that we all know and love. Because last year he had 21 goals and 60 assists. So I just need him to begin scoring again. I think that he has such a great shot, but he's such a selfless player where he would rather make the pass. And sometimes the best type of hockey is where you just take those one-timers and rip it. So I want to see that aggressiveness from Robert Thomas tonight. But let's get into the projected lineup heading into tonight's contest. On the first line, we have centering Robert Thomas to the left, Bushi to the right, Snuggie. Now, we've seen this combination before, and I do like it. What I will say about this first line is that I need the games to be stepped up by Bushi, especially in Robert Thomas. I think Snugger has been playing great hockey, But I know it's Thomas's first game back, but I still want to see him step up just a little bit and elevate the game. Now, it's interesting, my friends, because on the second line, we have Pius Suter centering, and to the left, it's Braden Shen playing the wing position, and to the right, it's Jordan Kyrou. So Shenny still stays in that second line, but just switches his position. And he's still going to be the guy that's going to be taking a lot of the face-offs, so I'm not concerned by any sense. He's actually really consistent when it comes to face-offs. But again, a strategic move that I'm not upset about whatsoever. So I'm interested to see how this will go. On the third line and in the position that he should have been in the entirety of the season, it is Dvorsky centering. To the left, it's Dylan Holloway, and to the right, it's Sonny. What I will say about this is I am such a fan of Dvorsky, okay? Huge fan of him. I love to see him in this position. Dylan Holloway needs to step it up. So again, that's why he's playing on the third line. Sonny, can't say anything bad about Sonny. Sonny plays with a lot of effort. Finally, the fourth line, it's Nick Buksat. To the left, Turchenko, and to the right, Mojo. Matthew Joseph. That's a guy that's most impressed me this season so far is Mojo. The amount of effort that he puts on to the ice, the amount of effort just accumulated overall from him just goes to show how badly he wants to be here. So I cannot emphasize enough how proud I am to see Matthew Joseph the way that he's playing. Defense, let's get into our pairs because guess who we do not have today? You guessed it. So it's going to be Philip Robert, Colton Parayko, Cam Fowler, Justin Falk, Tyler Tucker, Matthew Kessel, and Jordan Binnington in net. You might have noticed that I did not say the name Logan Mailloux. And I guess what I can say to you is this. I I think that this whole situation, right, with Logan this season, it's just so interesting to me, right? You have Coach Montgomery, who is stated time and time and time again, Logan, once he comes in, he won't come out again. And in no way am I trying to discredit anything that the head coach is saying because I respect Coach Montgomery. But we traded, and I want to emphasize this, we traded Zach Bolduc, and I used to call him Zach Golduke, to get Logan. So for me, I'm a little bit perplexed about how this is even happening. And it also makes me question, is Logan going to be sent down? At the end of the day, I think that this is a player that couldn't handle it. Okay? I'll say it. He couldn't handle the level of the NHL. And some players are much better in the AHL, ECHL, you name it. When I said prior, I think the Blues lost this trade, it wasn't because I was trying to come on here and give a hot take. It's because I know that if Zachary Bolduc was still here, he would have been in the lineup consistently. So for me, it's just really interesting because, again, you have a player that is not in the lineup, right? You have a player that you got told would stay consistently in the lineup. And what I will say about Zach Bolduc is he's played 12 games this season with 4 goals and 2 assists, 6 points total. I know evidently that is not, the best per se. The last time he's actually got a point was the 25th at Vancouver. However, what I will say on that is he is consistent, right? You don't really see him playing that much per se. You get about 13 minutes of ice time, but it's consistency. And that's what you get out of Zach Bolduc. On the face-off, he does pretty well. He's 57%, not bad at all. So I would be curious to kind of compare the two stats when the season ends. But again, it makes you wonder, okay, well, did he bring back Calle to have as a backup for Kessel? Like, you have to ask yourself questions as to why certain things are happening because it seems like there's maybe something bigger going on, which is going to bring me to my next point, which is about trades. But before I do so, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Gametime. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress free. When I go to Game Time, I know that I'm going to be getting the best deal possible and the best seat possible. Because with Game Time, you can actually physically see what you're going to see from the seat that you select. I also like about Game Time is that there is no surprise fees at checkout. Oh, by the way, you can also score NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. One of the big talking points lately, and by lately I mean over the past 24 hours, has been this question about trades. Because we're at the point in the season where it's still early, but you saw enough of that small little sample size to maybe be a little bit apprehensive about some of the talent on your team. Being said, I always find it really interesting when NHL insiders kind of share their thoughts. So, Elliot Friedman, who is a great reporter, great insider, did state that he heard St. Louis and Minnesota were looking around last week, quote, not necessarily on doing anything, but just kind of, I heard both teams were making calls last week. So they were just kind of checking around the league. I thought that was really interesting. I feel like that kind of makes me a little bit not, I guess that makes me feel a little bit better for a few things. The Blues, they never start off well, okay? Like, think about the year that we won the Cup. Like, we started off horribly. But this seems a little bit different to me just because I feel like this team is not able to kind of get going. And that concerns me. I mean, we've hit November now. This will be the first game that we play in November. So I'm curious. Well, actually, no. Saturday was November. We're 0 for 1 in November. Let's go. But I am going to be curious to see how this team responds in the next few weeks. Now, it's not that I think the Blues have a bad team. And I know what you're thinking. Hale, come on. You can't say that's how the season's going. But I don't think that. I think the Blues have a lot of talented players that are just in this really odd slump. It doesn't seem like the team that I know and love. It's not the kind of results that you get from players like a Dylan Holloway, a Robert Thomas, a Braden Shen. This is not how this team is. Now, you can make the argument and say to me, well, defensively, this is how this team is. And for that, I would say I cannot argue with you whatsoever in that sense. I think defensively, there is an issue with this team. But is the issue big enough to where I'm willing to trade away some of our really talented prospects and draft picks? I don't know yet. And let's not forget about the draft. I mean, right now, if the Blues, well, second from last, right, as of now, we could potentially get McKenna. I know. That's not how the draft works. Okay, well, I can always hope. Like, you heard of teams doing the whole tank for Bedard. Why can't I do the tank for McKenna? Whatever. I'm trusting a 17-year-old college Penn State hockey player with my aspirations for the team heading into the future. So that's cool. But my main point is right now, the Blues have a lot of unanswered questions that us, the fans, want to know. Response is everything. How a team responds is everything and more. So tonight, while it would be great to see the guys get back in the win column, I'm also not going to be what's that word? Oh yeah, living in denial of what I've seen from the handful of games this season. Okay, they've won 3 games. Like, that's that. But what I will say, though, is that I want to see more unified hockey. I want to see better passing, taking more shots on goal, one-timers. I want to see the hockey that I'm used to seeing, not this little sloppy high school looking hockey the little kids that play during intermission. That's what the Blues look like. So those kids actually might have more energy. My apologies to all those kids. But with that being said, I'm excited for tonight, and I cannot wait to react to this game tomorrow, and hopefully it will be a win. And I'm going to give you a goal prediction. I think Robert Thomas scores tonight in his first game back in the last 4 games since he was out. All right, I will talk to you next time, and like always, let's go Blues.